Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Living in Alignment podcast. I'm your host, Amy Starr Allen, and I am joined here today by beautiful Karlyn Ankrom. And Karlyn is the founder and lead strategist of OSNAP Social and the creator of the Fan Firestarter framework, which is a new approach to social media marketing made specifically for businesses tempted to fake their own death and flee to Tahiti at the mere thought of content creation. Backed by a journalism degree, Karlyn has always been creative and loved writing. As the world transitioned from Web 2 to Web 3, she has seen the evolution of social media taking the place of traditional PR, with businesses utilizing it to get information to potential clients and the press without traditional press release. Karlyn developed her user-friendly strategy after working for a decade with a variety of brick-and-mortar businesses that were decidedly social media allergic, not because they didn't want to do social media, but because they were intimidated by it. In response, her new system helps newbies get on the fast track to unsticking their social media in just 1 hour per week. Karlyn has written for the Social Media Examiner, been highlighted in Business Insider, and appeared on ABC 7 News. Woohoo! How are you doing today, Karlyn?
I'm doing awesome. How are you doing today, Amy?
I'm doing great. It's great to have you here. This is a conversation that is super relevant and perfect for my listeners. And so I'm excited to pick your brain about all things social media today. Before we do, I would love to hear just a little of your backstory if you want to share anything about who you are and how you ended up here and all that good stuff.
I'll give you the short version of it. I graduated and I had a journalism degree, and it was right on the cusp when Web 2.0 was coming out, right? Like social media was then open to everyone. You no longer needed that .edu email address that was required back in the day to sign up for Facebook. And it was starting to become this very open way of communicating. And I was like, well, I know that print journalism might not be around for much longer. I also decided that in my news class, video news class, like broadcast news, that a lot of that news was bad news. And I just didn't have my empathetic self did not have the capacity for bad news all the time. So I was like, well, maybe that's not the shtick. So then when I found social media in my web comms class, my senior year, I took it as an elective. I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to help organizations, companies, businesses really fine tune their messaging, that they don't have to wait for a journalist to amplify their message, that they don't have to put something out on the PR wire to have it gain traction. We can be control of the narrative. And I was like, that is super powerful and a different use case that we had heard of in years past for leveraging social. And so I went to work at an organization. I worked for a plethora of startups. And it really hit me when I was in a layoff of one of those startups, because, in startups, money sometimes is finite. Funding is sometimes finite. And I got laid off, and people started coming to me and was like, you're doing social media, right? Are you doing social media? And I started to build this baseline of clientele. And that's really what kick-started OSNAP Social. And yes, I continued to get, new jobs with this on the side. And so I built it 2, 3 years on the side. And it wasn't until I was like approaching my 30th birthday that I was like, I'm either going to do this and do it all in, or not and regret it for the rest of my life. So at that point, I was like, I'm diving in. So I quit my job. I went all in on OSNAP Social. And what was really cool is I got to use that nest egg that I had built up over those first couple of years, that I didn't pay myself from my at the time side hustle, as like self-funding
Mm.
to get to get me, set up for success, and not feeling stressed about, well, how am I going to pay myself when I already had a decent nest egg. So that was the biggest blessing, I think, in the pause and waiting, because I think, as we all know, as entrepreneurs, security isn't a thing. But at the same time, when you're at a job, as I had found, that's not a secure thing either all the time.
Mm.
So, I got to be in control, and I've been building OSNAP Social ever since. And it's been in a totality from side hustle to full-time, it's been about 7 years. So kind of insane. Five full-time for myself, and my team has grown, and it's kind of ebbed and flowed of being, lean and strong and back to lean just based on the season. And it's been a wild ride, and I'm so excited to be where we're at right now and feeling more in alignment, I think, than ever before, which is kind of cool because we're doing everything with intention now rather than just, collecting a large client roster. We really are thinking more intentionally about who we're trying to attract. Yep.
I love this story because it just goes to show how important it is to develop a skill set. There's so many skill sets when it comes to being an entrepreneur or an online marketer that are highly paid skill sets. People will pay you to help, businesses will pay you to help them with different things. What I see a lot with entrepreneurs is they try something, they don't get the results that they want, so they try something else and they keep doing that and they never really master anything, right? So it sounds like you really mastered social media. Like that's your thing, that's your jam. That's what people started to come to you for help with. And as you, I'm guessing this because I've done this myself, as you help other people with it, you become even more of a master. You hone in on your skills, you become better and better at it. And now you're just, you've created this amazing business out of it. So I love your story. It's
Thank you. It's been a
yeah.
wild one.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I think, like, I know you said that you're being more intentional now, which I think is awesome too. I would love to ask you about that as far as one of the things that I say all the time, because I've had a lot of success in my business with, I'm primarily an affiliate marketer. So I generate leads and sales through my content, right? And a lot of people think that you have to have like millions of views on things in order and everything in order to make money. And I always say, like, yeah, on YouTube, if you're trying to monetize your channel or get like brand deals, like, yeah, views matter, but they don't really matter for if you're just trying to get leads for a specific thing like that people are searching. If I can generate leads from people that are searching for what I'm putting out there, I don't need a lot of leads to be successful in my business. And therefore I don't need a lot of views. And so I would love for you to speak to, what you have to say about, things that people should actually be measuring or looking for, like goals, like what kind of things should
Yeah.
people be striving to do on social media rather than just like views, likes, comments, all that stuff.
Yes, I love this question because I think it's one that it needs to be addressed multiple times over. And because again, yes, social media vanity metrics are there. They are a good indicator of where you're at, but they're not the end all be all. Because if you don't have a set goal as to what you're trying to measure and why you're measuring it, there's no point. So if you're like, I want to grow my engagement, okay, why? If you want to grow your likes, comments, saves, and shares, why? If you want to grow your following, why? Because to me, yes, my followers are valuable. I'm not discrediting that. But also, what's more valuable to me is a place that I own, which is my email list full of leads who raise their hand wanting something from me. That is
Yes.
something that I control. That's something that I own. If tomorrow, and I always use this analogy, if tomorrow Zuck was like, you know what? Building Meta has been a joy, but I'm done here. I'm going to sail off on my yacht in the sunset. Y'all have fun. We're going to shut it down. One, I don't want to be around for that day when, if that happens, because the mass chaos that it would ensue. And I feel like we're getting a little bit of a taste of that with the threat of technology of TikTok being banned. We're getting a little flavor of that, which is not a good taste in the mouth of many. And so for that, I just want you to say, how can you take the content that you're creating and get them to a place that you can control? And the goal could be maybe you want to increase website traffic. That could be step one, because right now you're not directing anyone anywhere. Maybe it's to get more leads. Maybe you have a freebie, a lead magnet, something of value in exchange for their coveted email address. And I think a lot of us, not including you, Amy, because you're a master at the affiliate marketing piece, right? A lot of us are scared to sell on social. Like, we don't want to be salesy. We don't want to be, okay. But then how is anyone going to pay you what you're worth for the value and solutions that you provide for them if they don't know that you can? So that's been a big piece of, and it's kind of the therapy that I give my clients a lot of times is I work with a lot of heart-centered entrepreneurs, right? They have a mission bigger than themselves. They're like trying to solve the world's problems, but they have to be able to give them solution, whether it's a book, whether it's a course, whether it's something of, value. And yes, you can share all the freebie things, which is great to build up that trust, build up that thought leadership and expertise. But just like Gary Vaynerchuk always says, jab, 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 right hook, give value, give value, give value, then ask for the sale, ask for the email address, ask them to subscribe to something, right? So they can continue down the path. But until you know the why behind the content that you're creating, you might as well be like throwing a dart at a target blindfolded. It's not going to work.
Mm-hmm. I love this so much because this is a conversation that I also have all the time about the importance of an email list and how we don't own our social media accounts. But it's so cool to hear it from somebody that's a social media, like that's your business. And you're basically saying you can't just be on social media. Like you have to move
It's a
people.
sliver.
Yeah. Like I always say, like, it's great to be on social media, but you need to move them onto your email list. You need to be offering a way to move them onto your email list because I've had accounts shut down. I've had my YouTube channel shut down multiple times. I've had, you know what I mean? Like it happens all the time. Even if the whole platform doesn't shut down, they can shut you down. You're not paying for Facebook or Instagram or any TikTok or any
No.
of these things. And so like to put all your eggs in one basket is not a safe
Yeah.
bet. And I love hearing this from, because I say it
Yes.
all the time, but I feel like it's so cool to hear it from you because since social media is your, what you're helping people with, you're not like, it's all about social media and that's it. Because the
Yeah.
email list is really
And I
the
think what's
asset. But so,
interesting, oh, sorry. And I think what's
no, I was just going to say
interesting,
social media is a good way to drive people to your hub,
yes.
your website, your email list.
Yeah. And I always say, like, I know enough about all the different other pieces of the puzzle to be dangerous because, social is just that sliver of your overarching marketing objectives, right? But if you don't know what success looks like on social media, and if you're utilizing that as kind of the watering cooler to like, get attention from the masses, if you don't have a next step of how you're going to engage and re-engage and re-engage and nurture the relationship, then all of this work that you're doing over on social media is for nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like trying to
Yeah.
keep up with the Joneses, and that's not effective as we've learned over
Mm-mm.
time.
Mm-mm. And just like you said, like people need to be given a next step, which we can go more into that in a minute, but
Yeah.
like, as far as how to lead them there with a call to action, but they also need, like, if you don't offer them something, like you can give away your freebies and stuff, but if you have like a course or you have a product or whatever it is, if you don't offer that to people, you're going to lead them to where they know they need something more and they're going to go buy it from somebody else.
Yes,
So
good
that's
point. Yeah,
that's where
absolutely.
the jab, 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 right hook comes in, right? Like you need to then ask for the sale because now you've developed a relationship with them. You've led them to the point where they know that you have a solution to their problem. And now you need to offer them the solution so that they can pay you for that. Because I've seen it over and over again where people are like, oh, yeah, this is really cool. I do really want to learn to be a baker. I'm going to go buy a cookbook on Amazon now since this person's not offering me one,
Telling me that they have a cookbook.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing, like it translates. I've been a lot of my clients are experienced speakers and they have an audience on social that they haven't reignited in months, right? And so I'm helping them with that, but they're like, I don't want to feel salesy, but there are those softballs that you can throw at people just so they have awareness. Like I go deeper on this top, I go deeper in this topic in my book, air quote. And then they can talk about that one concept. But it's like you prime the pump to say, oh, they have a book about this thing if I want to learn more about it. There's some softballs that you can throw into your content, whether on stage or online, that can help tease out that you got something more. And then you can go in and be like, if you've missed it, I have a book. Go buy it. It's here on Amazon and Kindle and anywhere that you can find your books, whatever. Like just tell people. It just drives me nuts because
Mm-hmm.
I witnessed this firsthand myself. I was like, oh, I have this freebie that I haven't shared. What? So I shared it, and someone who has a community of people that are seeking advice from her from a social perspective, she went ahead and shared, she asked me if she could share my freebie into the group. And she did, and I got 25 new leads from her one post in the group in like less than 3 hours. I was like, so what you're saying is I need to share more of this content. And so now I'm like a huge believer of making sure regularly you're putting stuff up there that's not only value driven, but leads to something intentional. Like you want to increase more leads on your email list. If that's a goal of yours, how are you getting people from social to somewhere else to give them your email address? But
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I love this, what you're saying too about the book. Well, one example comes to mind. This girl that I've been following, she's really good. She has these short videos on TikTok, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts, and they're always popping up in my feed because when you watch people's stuff or whatever,
Yes.
you tend to see. And it's always like a 1 minute video, and she's really dialed in. Like I share her videos with my friends that I know need her content. She talks about dealing with narcissists, and she has
Mm-hmm.
like these tips, and every day it's like a 60-second video with a tip, and they're really, really, really good tips. And at the end of every one, she says, I have a book called Navigating Narcissism. It's available on Amazon. And that's all she says at the end. And she has built, I've watched her TikTok account, her accounts just like grow because she's consistent. She's given out, daily value, but then she's always got that call to action. And I don't know how many book sales she's made, but because she's so well versed in her topic and her videos provide so much value, I'm sure people are like, I need that book. She's so good,
Well, and I love
So,
what you just said, consistent. Make it
mm-hmm,
easy for people to know what you do and where they can get more from you. If
mm-hmm,
you're someone like I was early on in my business, I was like a lead magnet aholic. I was creating so many freaking lead magnets that people were like confused
mm-hmm,
what I actually did.
mm-hmm,
So that example you gave is perfect because it's one call to action every single time, leading someone to take the next step,
mm-hmm,
right? Does all of your content need to be that? No, but if you're giving someone a place to go, make it the same place over and over again. Because people
mm-hmm,
need, I think, what is the stat now? Like 12 touches to like take an
mm-hmm.
action.
Yeah.
It's no longer 7. It's probably like 50 by the time, next week rolls around. But
Mm-hmm.
so
And even with
yeah.
that call to action, go buy my book. Like personally, I think it's better to capture the email address first because if they go to
Yes.
Amazon and they don't buy the book, you now have no way to follow up with them. I mean, they're probably going to still see your videos because you're putting them out every day, but personally, I like to have a step where they're opting in for, so that if they
Absolutely.
don't purchase that day, now they're on my email list and I can stay in touch with them.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
yeah. So I know you have some tips for call to actions, like ways that people can use call to actions on social media. Do you want to share some of those?
Yeah, this is like perfect segue. So there are two types of calls to action, I think, to be clear, right? There's calls to action that direct traffic externally from the platform. So like we're talking what you're speaking about, like driving traffic to a website or a landing page or a lead magnet page to get the email address. Then there's internal calls to action, which really, if you're looking to build engagement, build more eyeballs, get your message out there to the masses more, if that's your goal, right? Which is an okay goal. It's not like the end all be all, but if you're starting from scratch, you need to build some of that engagement and audience in order to get people to, take that external call to action. And that means, simple. Don't let people, at the end of your caption, don't say, well, what's one tip that you would share about XYZ thing? People don't like to think. Like, make it easy. Drop a
Give me an
thumbs up.
amen.
Yeah, and drop a thumbs up emoji if this
Mm-hmm.
resonated with you, or if you needed to hear this today.
Mm-hmm.
Save this prompt for later, just easy things that people know how to do and they don't have to think, because people go to social and these online spaces for a few reasons. One, to feel seen and heard. So, right, that empathy drawing in. They are there to like escape their reality oftentimes, right? That's where I go when I'm like on a TikTok binge. I'm just in there and I'm like 2 hours past. I'm like, what happened? Um, and then they go there to be entertained, right? And so if we can do our due diligence of, understanding why people are, specifically our own audiences, are going to these platforms, and we can kind of disrupt a little bit of their regularly, scheduled scrolling with our content, whether it's, I didn't coin this phrase, but I think it was Kim Garst or Mari Smith or one of the pioneers in the social space of like edutainment. If we can create content that's entertaining and also educates, like that is a win. And
Mm-hmm.
again, we're leading with value, we're leading with intention. We're not just trying to throw spaghetti at a wall and see what sticks. Is where really that success will come in. And having a call to action, whether it's an internal call to action, making it easy to bubble that engagement and be there when that engagement is happening so you can reply back to it, because the algorithms at the moment really like that community flair. They like the conversations happening, hence social media. Social has to be social, right? And then the external pieces, right, of around driving traffic somewhere else. You can have both, but both have a very different goal associated with it. So just make that very clear. And I have one client who's really focused on kind of a cadence of different types of calls to action, because she's trying to figure out of her audience, where is her audience most comfortable with taking action right now, which
Mm-hmm.
also kind of reflects back into like the buyer's journey. Are they in the awareness phase, consideration phase, or that decision making phase? And different content for each of the phases. So just kind of a lot to think about from a strategic angle, but just start small, start somewhere, and really outline what that goal is and give it a timeline, give it a deadline, so you can measure along the way.
Mm-hmm. And regardless of the call to action, it's important to remember that people, it's like there's psychological studies have shown people need to be told what to do. Like if you don't tell them to leave a thumbs up emoji, they're not going to comment on your post. So if you want to create engagement on your post, you need to ask for it. And if you make it simple, just like you just said, then they're a lot more likely to actually do it. And the more people that do that, the more engagement you're going to have on your post, and that's going to help overall with the algorithm pushing it out to more people. But a lot of people feel like people should just comment, like I don't need to tell them to comment, or people should just click the link below the video and grab my lead magnet. I don't need to tell them. No, you do need to tell them. And I've actually
Yes.
heard this man that I interviewed on my podcast was telling me about I loved this stat too, and I don't remember the exact number, but he was talking about how like if you have a call to action that's like click the link below to grab my free lead magnet, it will convert like 40%, I think was the number, higher if you say click the link below now.
Mm.
Like again, telling people what to do, because if they don't do it now, they're probably not going to come back and do it. So you have to remind them to do it now. Like that's how much we have to tell people what to do. It's
Mm-hmm.
crazy. And then the other stat that he shared was like giving people directions. So he was using an example about wanting people to go like get a vaccine on a college campus or something like that. And so if there's a sign up that says go get your vaccine at such and such a building at whatever time, um, not a lot of people did, but when they changed it with a little map to show people how to get to that build, where exactly that building is, then it went up like a lot. It went a lot higher. And so I feel like it's the same thing. Like a lot of times we can give a call to action where we're like doing a screenshot of like, so when after you click the buy button or you click the sign up button, you're going to be taken to this page where you're just going to fill out your information. Like if you could provide like a little roadmap so
Step by
people,
step.
yeah, let them know what's exactly the process they're going to go through. It takes the fear away for them of like, what happens when I click this button? What's going to happen?
It's gonna happen now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think too, like as marketers, we sometimes get jaded and thinking that, consumers are, you already know what to do. And I will say, like, consumers are smarter than they used to be because we get served a million and one messages throughout the day, but they still want to take easy action. Make it
Mm-hmm.
easy for people to take some sort of action. Make it easy for people to give you money. Like, don't make a form 40 steps because they're not going to fill it out. They don't have
Mm-hmm.
time.
Yep.
So I think that's a big thing is I think for myself as a good reminder as a marketer too, it's we think they know how to take an action, but the better you spell it out, even just like as you mentioned, just changing the one word now, that's brilliant. Like just
Mm-hmm.
changing it to be more active
Mm-hmm.
can really help as well. I love that tip. That's a great one.
Mm-hmm. I'm wondering what your thoughts are about things like ManyChat. Like I use it too, but it's like it's another way where we can give away a lead magnet automatically when someone like if you say like leave the word cheat sheet in the comments and I'll send you my cheat sheet for XYZ and so then all they have to do is put that one word in and then they get a DM with a link to your lead magnet and it's brilliant. I do it. I know it helps with engagement because more people like
Mhm.
if you provide value in your content and then you're set, all they have to do is put in one word, then they're more likely to do it. And then the more people that do that, the more it helps with the algorithm. But I'm just curious
Yeah.
what your take is on bots like that.
I think there's a time and a place for them. I don't think they're for everybody. If you have reached a threshold where your engagement's already like through the roof, or you have again a clear intention, clear goal of what you're trying to do, then by all means adopt a bot. But if you are at the like beginning of your journey, you don't need to go all in on all of the tools.
Yeah.
I've even seen people, if they don't have a ton of engagement, they'll start with that tactic because it's a simple call to action, which we all love. And
Hmm.
they'll just go and reply back. They'll hang out for the first 10 minutes that their post is up. They'll have it copy pasted on their clipboard in their phone and they'll just manually. Is that more work? Yes. If you had 600 comments, would I recommend that? No. That's when you know it's time to adopt like a bot. And I think further thinking around as you're creating content for the lead push around driving traffic to your lead magnet, getting people to subscribe and raise their hand is really, really powerful. But then what's the next phase? I always want you to be thinking a step ahead because yes, growing your leads is great. Like we love that. And especially if we got them from social. But I have a client right now who adopted a bot. She's working with somebody else to build the bot side of things. But she's like, I need content in between to continue to build trust, to continue to tell people that I have a course.
Right.
Because it was all sounding like, go to this quiz, go to this quiz, go to this quiz, and it's like, okay, well then what's after the quiz?
Right.
And even though it's built out in the bot, there still needs to be a front facing um, proof of life of that other concept that's there. Because if people are
Hmm.
ready to take action now, they don't want it, they don't need to take the quiz first. That's a
Right.
great place to just, they've been following, they've been lurking, get them to engage that way. So
Yeah.
I think they're great. Do
Yeah.
it and, build that lead magnet and build those followers and leads
Hmm.
because that's
Yeah.
exactly what we want to happen.
And that's the beauty of something like a quiz too, is because now you get them on your email list, you know exactly who they are based on their answers to the quiz, and that's where your email comes into play. You're not fighting with any more algorithms
Brilliant.
now. You're
Yeah.
delivering what they want on a silver platter. And but you took them off of social to get them there by having them take your quiz or whatever. So I
Brilliant.
love that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
Another question that I have for you. So I see a lot of people who are like, well, I don't want any of my friends and family to see my content for my business. And so I'm going to create a private Facebook account. And I'm just like, if you're, I mean, I want to hear what you have to say. I just, you know, what's, I always tell people like, if you're ashamed of what you're doing, you might want to either build your belief in what you're doing or find a different product to
Mm.
represent or whatever. Like if you don't want your friends and family to see you, like I feel like some people feel like there's these like anonymous internet people over here that and then there's like people that know me and they're separate. So I'm curious what you have to say about that relationship between personal and professional on social media and how to navigate that for people.
Yeah, this is probably like, especially in the early days of my business, I would get this all the time. And now that I'm working more with like thought leaders, authors, those types of folks, personal brands, I get it more and more. But to your point, I love what you said first. So, because I agree, is if you are trying to keep them super separate, eventually the lines are going to have to blur. And I think for me, and what I tell my clients is there is a line. Everyone has a line between what's professional and what's personal. Everyone has a line. But for me, I'm very intentional about what I post where. My Facebook profile, I will share business stuff all day, but I also share personal stuff over there. Instagram, same thing. I'm starting to show less of my daughter on there, um, just out of a preference, parenting preference. But she's there as a baby. Like it's part of who I am. I'm a
Right.
mom, I'm a business owner, I teach dance part-time. All of that is what makes me human because as humans, we're not just one layer. We often have multiple things that we're doing. There's multiple passions that we all have going. But you get to decide where the line is. But if you're ashamed of what you're doing on a professional side, then maybe it's time to either change your mindset or not give a cahoot about what everyone else thinks. And that's kind of where I'm at. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm not for everybody, and that's okay. And I always tell people there's 101 of, I mean, more than that, of me, social media people out there in the world, but not everyone's going to resonate with what I say.
Mm-hmm.
Just like not everyone's going to resonate with what you say, Amy, or, anyone. And isn't that cool that we get to share who we are, what we do to the masses for like literally no, like we don't have to pay Facebook to like put our stuff out there. It's like bananas thinking about
Mm-hmm.
that. Back in the old days of the yellow pages, right? Where you had to, before they were paperweights, or step stools in your
Mm-hmm.
kitchen. Um, you
Yeah.
had to pay to get that placement and you weren't even guaranteed that someone would turn to your page and
Mm-hmm.
find you. And now we have ways to share it with the masses.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you have to decide where the line is and you have to decide for yourself, and you cannot be comparing your line to anybody else's line. And
Mm-hmm.
I think over time you'll start to see that blurred effect as I have. And on LinkedIn, like I share less of my family because people are not as interested as that over there. They're potentially more interested in the messy action that I'm taking in business rather
Mm-hmm.
than like that I went to have ice cream, with my kid for the weekend, you know.
Right.
So, yeah.
And I want, this leads into another interesting conversation about niching down because I like
Mhm.
what you were just saying about how we're well-rounded people, we're human beings. And I have found that just like what you were saying, like not everybody's going to resonate with me, or I might be offering the same type of thing as somebody else. But because I'm more relatable to somebody because they see videos of me playing my guitar or
Yeah.
I'm boxing. I'm at the boxing gym and people are like, "Oh, I'm a boxer." So like when people can relate to you on other levels besides business, I feel like
Yes.
it builds rapport and relatability and and it's a good thing. But other people come from the school of thought where you've got to be so niche down that like all people see is your content about your niche. And I just can't put myself in a box. I've tried to niche down and be like super specific and it bores me first of all and I feel out of alignment when I do it. I know other people have great success doing it and I've seen like for example this girl who was like trying to do like some kind of hair care channel and it was kind of vague, it was just hair care, but she ended up niching down to where she has this crazy curly hair, so she just got really specific for people with crazy curly hair and like has tips just for those people. And a lot of people would say, well, you're leaving a lot of people out because not everybody has crazy curly hair. So there's two different, but her channel took off when she did that, right? Because she's like the go-to for people with crazy
For
curly
that.
hair. And there's enough of them on the planet for her to be niche specific like that. So I don't know. There's pros and cons to
Yeah,
both.
there's two schools of thoughts. And I'm also of the same camp that you are, Amy. It's like I can't niche down, and I'm actually really glad. Early on I was pretty specific. Like I worked with a lot of dental practices, but I'm very fortunate that I didn't go all in on that one niche, especially when the pandemic rolled around and all of their offices closed.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what they weren't investing in? Marketing.
Yep.
So I'm like, I've never been more fortunate to not have niched down because one, I got to glean a lot of experience from other types of industries. And to your point, like two schools of thought, pros and cons on each. But I like to keep it interesting because otherwise social media gets really repetitive and really boring really fast.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they're all, even if I were to work with all, dental offices, they all have their own strategies. They all have their own specific types of clientele and goals related to social. But it's like a dental tip is a dental tip,
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
I like to keep
exactly.
it interesting.
Yeah, exactly. And there are ways that we can create our own, like, I feel like we're each our own niche, you know,
Hmm.
because we have,
Yeah.
and that I changed my podcast. My podcast used to be all about blogging. That's all it was because I was like really into blogging. And again, like
Yeah.
that's not me. Like I want to talk about other stuff. And I talk about a lot of stuff on this podcast that has nothing to do with marketing too. I talk about my spiritual stuff. I talk about plant medicine.
Yeah.
I talk about human design, whatever. And I wanted the ability to be able to do that because that's who I am.
Yeah.
Um and I feel like I don't know, I just think it's a gift. It's more of a gift and a service to the world if we're sharing more of ourselves, in that way, rather than just being like, you know, super, super,
Yeah.
super specific. But again, I know that there is success to be had by being super specific if you do it right.
Yeah.
It just
I've
wasn't
seen
for
it
me.
happen in my industry as well. Like everyone's like, well, what platform do you specialize in? I was like, I don't because the businesses I serve need majority of them, or they
Mm-hmm.
need to do at least two really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
And I have friends that are like all about the Instagram. I have a friend that's all about business on TikTok. I have a friend that's like all YouTube, like that's her jam. And good on them. If there's a client that just needs that one thing, that's where I send them. But if they
Right.
need more than one thing, hi, I'm here.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. So let's get into some tips. So if somebody's like an entrepreneur and they're not really getting the results that they want from their social media presence, what are some things that you would recommend that people can do to kind of start to move the needle?
Yeah. First thing, as I always recommend, do yourself a favor and do a quick audit of your social. That means popping the hood. We do this for our clients all the time on a like regular cadence. Pop the hood, understand what's working well, what type of content is actually reaching your goals. And also to backtrack that, assuming you already have your goals propped up, right? So then you know really why you're measuring and what you're measuring. So do that first. And then also the other thing that I think is underrated is this level of self-awareness it takes to create content at scale. I am a morning person. I create my best content in the morning when before the world wakes up, before the pings and dings start going off in my inbox and social channels. I'm fully present at that time. That's when I can batch my content, get all of my content done and dusted, and I typically try to do this on Mondays or Sundays, to be honest. I get it done so then I can create the content in between for the rest of the week or month. Right? That's where that 1 hour a week stems from. But I know that in the morning, fresh as a daisy. After 3 p.m., I feel like my brain starts to leak out my ears and things don't make sense. So, really having that level of self awareness. So, measure what matters for you, knowing that you have the goals, understand where that self awareness is, and really hone in on your audience and who they are. If you do not know what their pain points are, what irks them about what it is that you can solve, interview your clients that you've already had, even if they were in the past. Why did you pick me? Why did you come to me? What was it about my service offering or maybe my personality that really attracted you to me over others? And I think sometimes we don't ask that because it feels a little bit uncomfortable. But I'm starting to do that right now because I want to make sure that the services that I'm offering are now in alignment, being that the market has kind of shifted in the past 6 or 7 months. And I've noticed it, but I'm like, well, why? Like my prices haven't changed, but what's changing out there that's beyond my control? And that means I
Mhm.
have to ask my ideal clients and past clients some questions. And I think that's a really smart tactic so that you're just not like hoping for the best, especially things that are not really jiving and you're noticing you're not getting the results that you're after. So those are kind of the three things that I would start with. What about you? What's some, I'm sure you have loads of ideas too around this.
Um, yeah, no, I love all your tips. I mean, one of the main things for me is always, and I think it's something people for whatever reason have a really hard thing with, is just really being yourself
Yeah.
and being authentic and sharing what you feel is you're here to share. Like I don't know, I feel like people try to compare themselves to others, and like they
Yes.
see somebody that's having success and they're like, well, I'm going to do it like that. Or what would this person, how would this person say it? Instead of just like speaking from your heart. And I've noticed for myself over I've been doing this for 2 decades, but over time, as I become more and more like, I just say stuff that's like just coming, I'm like channeling it from God or the universe. I don't even know where it's coming from. And the more I just don't get in the way of that and just put it out there, the more it lands with people because it's mine. It's not
Yeah.
copied and pasted and edited from somebody else. It's not, and I always, this to take that to another level, one of the things that works for me, and I always tell people like you don't have to do it this way because some people like scripts and lots of editing and things, but I have found that because I make a lot of videos and we know videos are super, super important in this day and age because it's how we really build rapport with people. But I have found that like if I have a video that I want to make, like I know kind of like the topic I'm going to talk on. If I sit down and shoot the video, it comes from my heart, not my head. It's just I let it come from my heart. What I've noticed is if I'm like, well, I don't like the way that I was sitting, or I don't like the way my hair looks, or I forgot to say something, or I should have said something that I forgot to say. If I go back and reshoot the video, now I'm in my head. I'm not in my heart anymore
Yes.
because I'm trying to make sure I'm sitting right. I'm trying to make sure that I say the thing I forgot last. And it's a completely, it might look better or whatever, be cleaner in some way, but it doesn't land the same way. And I really truly believe that when we allow ourselves to just really come from our heart, um, unfiltered and just say what comes out, like I really feel like it really has more of an impact on people in a good way. And it also helps grow our brand rather than trying to be like some guru that you're trying to be like. So that's kind of my
I
big.
love that. I love that because it's true.
Mhm.
And how cool is it that social media video today is forgiving in that it almost craves that level of authenticity and unfiltered content. And I do this content in a snap sessions with some of my clients where they're on the other side of the screen shooting content. And I see exactly what you just said. From the first take is like brilliant, right? The first take is always brilliant because they got their bullets, it's not scripted. And then the same thing, exactly what you just said happens. Oh, I didn't say the CTA right. I didn't say that right. Or I wanted to add this. I'm like, we can do another take, but I'm going to tell you right now that first take was the best. And
Mhm.
they'll do take two and take three. And then I'll play them back and they're like, okay, yeah, you're right. Take one was better. Because you're right. It shifts from your heart to your head and
Mhm.
they overthink. I do that too, with my YouTube videos that I just kickstarted my YouTube channel because I didn't have a lot of time or capacity in the past couple of years. So I'm really excited to be diving into that. But it's the same thing. I just am like team no fancy pants. Like just get it done, progress over perfection all day, and be that one take wonder. Like
Mhm.
it's the best. It really
Well,
is.
I think people crave imperfection. Like you're not
Yeah.
relatable if you're perfect. If everything is perfectly edited and like I'm not a fancy person either. Like most of my videos I'm wearing a t-shirt and I just got out of the boxing gym and my hair's sweaty and I braided and it's all messed up and I'm just like whatever. It's about like the content that we're delivering, not how we look. And I feel like people get slowed down by feeling like, well, I'm not having a good hair day, or whatever other excuses we make up about it wasn't perfect, so I'm not going to post that piece of content. It's like I feel like, and again, with AI being on the scene now,
Yeah.
more and more, I feel like people are craving imperfection because AI content is not that. It's just clean and, it comes from a robot or whatever. It comes,
Mhm.
and so when they can see like a person like that's just doing it, shooting off the cuff and
Yeah.
with messy hair or whatever, like
Yeah.
it's
From
just
their car.
people are getting it less and less these days, So yeah. So on that note, I guess I just brought up the big AI conversation. I'd love to hear
Boom.
and I have mixed feelings about it, as I'm sure you do too. But yeah, I'd love to hear your take on using AI and on social media for social media content.
So I was anti-AI for a long time. When it first came on the scene, I was like, it's gonna take my job. Like, this is terrible. My business is gonna suffer, blah, blah, blah. But truth be told, the audience that I serve doesn't even have time to post on social media, let alone figure out how to work a tool like AI, right? And that's what I want to kind of preface this by saying AI is a tool. It is not an end all be all. It is not perfect. It doesn't know you like you know you. Uh, but something that I utilize AI for are three things. One is inspiration. Inspiration, nothing is worse than staring at a screen with a blinking cursor, being like, what do I talk about? It gives you a quick, outline of something that you could potentially talk about, but you bring your own take to the table. And the next thing is speed. So something that I was doing a lot for some of my strategies is finding relevant national days for specific clients who want to utilize that as part of their strategy. I was having to comb through nationaldaycalendar.com to try to find those. I can now ask AI, hey, for a software engineering company, I just totally made that up, a software engineering company, what are some relevant national days throughout the year? Could you list them off? Include the date and the, observance or whatever. And it spits it out for me. Now I have to go check to double check that it got the year right and all of that, and that it's actually a day and that it's actually relevant to my audience.
Mm-hmm.
But it gives me a starting place.
Yep.
And then repurposing content, I leverage this a lot when I'm speaking on podcasts. I'll get like a transcription of it, or I'll, get something like that from the host, and I'll be like, okay, take this thing that I said and make it into 3 different tweets, for
Mm-hmm.
example. And forever it'll be Twitter. For those listening, they're like, it's X, it's Twitter forever in
It's
my brain.
Twitter. I agree.
It's Twitter. Let's just, anyway,
I refuse.
different topic. Yeah, I refuse to. Like, no. So I ask it, hey, take this thing that I said and make it into 3 different tweets. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to absolutely overuse emojis as it does. And it's going to include hashtags that are actually not well researched or relevant. It just is. I still have to take that, formulate it so it sounds like me. And yes, those of you out there that are like calling yourself prompt engineers, I know you can tell the bot to make it sound more kind, or make it sound more fun, or make it sound more sassy. I know you can make it sound like Oprah. Like, I get it. But that doesn't take away the fact that, like, I'm still not Oprah. Like,
Right.
so I need to make it sound like me.
Right.
Um, and that means you not copy and pasting it. And also, by the way, the algorithms are hip to it. They're getting hipper, because people
Oh
tried to
yeah.
game the system on Google a few months back, and they created websites that were just nothing but AI generated content. And they saw millions of views spike, and then Google's like, oh no, we're not doing this. And they changed the algorithm, and it tanked all of their views. So if you are out there trying to game the system, you will over time lose. It just is what it is. But if you're utilizing it as a tool to get you to the next step, or get new concepts or new ideas to spark something that relates back to you, then do that. But I always say inspiration, speed, and repurposing content that you already have created yourself.
Yeah, I love that. I love that because, another pitfall that I don't think a lot of people realize is that I see a lot of people like selling books now that are written by AI. And, like if you ask AI to go out and grab, write you a book with 10 10 cookie recipes, it's going to go out and grab 10 recipes from 10 different people who have cookbooks with that information in it and give it to you. Now you're plagiarizing, and now you're walking dangerous line there because you're
Yeah,
putting out a book that has other people's content in it, because that's where AI gets it. They get it from the content that's already out
it
there. So I
scrapes
love,
it. Yep.
yeah, so I love what you're saying about repurposing your own content using
Mhm.
AI to break it up into like little other pieces of content. Or, you could even ask AI to like, take your transcript and make it into like an email that you can send out to your list or whatever you want to do. Like there are many ways to repurpose your own content, but yeah, we do have to be really careful with just saying, "Oh, I just wrote a book using AI," because none of
In
that is
2 minutes.
yours. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
And
I think that's a misuse of the tool, and forever utilizing it as a way to take your own stuff and tweak it in a way that you can especially reinvent it for social. Like one thing that I always do is, especially for my clients, is I'll pull like the top 3 posts of the month and I'll pop it into ChatGPT and I'll say, hey, write this Instagram post 3 different ways, including this call to action in one of the versions, this call to action in another version, and this call to action in the third version. And it will do it. And then it's almost quite right, because I already know that that concept, that topic performs well, but I
mhm.
will go in and finesse it even after that. But it just gives you like a different perspective, a different lens to look through. But it still needs our human thumbprint and human strategic brain to understand, like, okay, this content's okay. We can spin it to make it more our voice, but also we know the purpose behind the post.
Yeah.
That goes back to goals and what you're measuring and all of those things.
Mhm.
So, yep,
Yeah.
love it. But yeah, don't be
Yeah.
writing full books.
Yeah. So anyway, I
What?
love this. I love your tips in case anybody missed. Inspiration, speed, and repurposing are three ways to use AI um ethically and without losing your voice. So
Mhm.
that's awesome. So I keep hearing you talking about your clients, and so I'm guessing you work with one-on-one clients. Can you just tell everybody like do you have any other like courses or any other ways that people can work with you?
I have some digital products, some like social media templates for LinkedIn specifically, business owners specifically on LinkedIn. But other than that, I work a lot in just one-on-one because that's my jam. I like
Yeah.
having that high touch with clients. Maybe one day soon I'll have a course that can feel as evergreen, but it's really hard for social media to build a course that feels evergreen, especially in the ever evolving world that we're in right now with AI coming into play, and these platforms changing all the time, and Twitter not getting its act together to know what the heck is happening over there. And so I know I have a course in me. I also have a book in me too, but
Hmm.
we'll get there.
Yeah, it is hard with the rate of technology is not only changing so fast, but I read something saying that the rate that it's changing is also increasing exponentially. So every day it's changing even faster than it changed the day
Yeah.
before. And
The
so it
velocity, it's just like
yeah, so it is really hard to create evergreen green content in that
yeah.
on that topic. But also I would imagine that for the type of work that you do, everybody's needs is different, everybody's personality is
Yes.
different, the platforms that they want to that that you would recommend for them or that they want to be on are different. So to have a course that's like speaks to everybody, I imagine is kind of probably pretty hard to do.
Yeah, a little difficult, but I'm
Yeah.
I'm gonna work on a way to build that passive revenue stream. Don't you worry.
Yeah.
One
I
day
don't.
it'll be here, and I
Yeah.
can't wait for that day. Hopefully it's
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah. I don't doubt it. Well, maybe it's just some like templates for each of the platforms that people
Yeah,
can, like
yeah,
you can even sell stuff like that on Etsy now, like
I
little
know.
little
Yeah,
like
so I started with the
worksheets for
LinkedIn.
people. Hmm.
Yeah, there's tons
Um,
of ideas. I just have to put
yeah,
pen to paper, or fingers to keyboard, I guess technically, and
yeah,
get that going. But in the meantime, I'll continue with the agency services at this
yeah.
point, but
So tell
soon.
us like tell people how they can find you or like the best
Yeah.
ways to take the next step with you.
You can go to osnapsocial.com And if you go to osnapsocial.com/resources, that's where you can find a lot of like my freebies. That's where like my digital product lives. And one of those is also a snap scan. So if you're looking for an abbreviated audit for your platform or a couple platforms, that's there for you as well.
Perfect. And I will put that in the show notes. And do you have, are your social media accounts listed on there? Or do you want to tell people where they can find you on
Yeah,
social?
you can find me. I'm most active on Instagram, if you want to see some of the behind the scenes stuff. And then LinkedIn is really where I build my business and business relationships. So those two, one, OSNAP Social Karlyn is my Instagram, and you can just look up my name, Karlyn Ankrom, on LinkedIn, and you will find my profile because there's not really anyone else with my name, thankfully.
Yeah. Nice. Awesome. Wow, this is great. I always wonder with, people with agencies like you have, like, is it like the cobbler whose kids need new shoes?
A
Like,
hundred
don't
percent.
look at my Instagram because I'm too busy
A
building other
hundred
people.
percent. 100% it is, but I try to make it an effort every day to show up on stories 3 times at least. And then LinkedIn, I try to share there 3 times a week. I don't stress myself out about it because there's no
Mhm.
point.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm doing just fine. And that's another thing, that you mentioned about comparison. Leave you with this is it's not fair to compare your chapter 3 to someone's chapter 30 in
Right.
business,
Yep.
because that will only lead to stagnant paralysis, and you won't do anything to progress or move the needle forward in your business. Just
Yep.
keep your eyes on your own paper, stay in your own lane, and just get it done.
hmm One other quick
Yeah.
question that I forgot to ask you. What is your take
Yeah.
on batching content? Like, do you think it's better to act when you're inspired or batch a bunch of content on one day a week? I know you kind of were talking about how you like Sundays and Mondays, but I wasn't sure if that's what you were
Yeah.
kind of getting at.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was getting at. I think it's if you have that level of self-awareness to know like when you're best going to be productive to get it
Mhm.
done. I think that's great. That being said, if the mood strikes and you're like, it's 7 p.m., there's no good natural light in anywhere that I'm at, my halo light is burnt out or whatever, just get the content down somewhere. I have a
Mhm.
notepad in my phone that I'm constantly adding things. I have a bookmark Google Doc on my browser that I open. I can add things as they come up. And then I know my
Mhm.
next, batching time, I can just get it done.
Right.
So I think there's different strategies for everybody. That's the one that I tend to subscribe to. And a lot of my clients do the same because they're busy doing a lot of other things besides social media throughout their week or month. Um, but it always helps to have a list of ideas to pull from, because the worst thing is like, you're like, okay, I blocked this time out in my calendar and I have no ideas. I mean, of course, you
Mhm.
can leverage AI, as I mentioned, but like you should be having a running list. And I think a lot of us
Yeah.
overcomplicate what we share. Just make it
Mhm.
simple. One thing. We know
Yep.
so much about our field. One thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
over and over and over. Keep it
Yeah.
simple.
And I mean, I'm the same. I notice like, because I walk on the beach twice a day with my dog, and that's when I get most of the downloads
Yeah.
come from for ideas. And I'm not in a place to like create the content right then, but I have an app on my phone that I just put it all in, and then it's all
Yeah.
there.
Wherever you need
And
it. I
B-roll
even have
video.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. B-roll. That's a whole nother thing with the word wall. That's the
Yeah.
trend right now. I think it's great. I think it's a good trend for those of us that are bashful about showing up on camera to do talking, talk to
Mm,
camera videos. It's a really great way to still share your message, get your face out there without having it be super like in your face, if that makes
yeah.
sense.
Well, I always say like
Yeah.
just when you're out and about, just
Yeah.
shoot a video. Like I'll shoot a video of the ocean. I don't know what I'm going to use it for, but I have a folder on my phone called B-roll, and so just like random. I just went horseback riding on the beach in Mexico. So I
Ooh,
took a B-roll
fun.
video from the back of the horse, and and then I can use that later on a day when it's 7 p.m. and I don't have good lighting and I just want to put something up. I can put,
Yeah.
some value on top of that video and
Yeah.
post and stay consistent. And I think like having an arsenal of B-roll video that we can use in that way is just makes it easy.
Super
So
smart. Yeah.
yeah.
Time lapse videos can be like your best friend ever. You set up, and I don't even have like well, I do have a fancy tripod, but if you have a stack of books next to your desk, You just prop it up on there and you're going about your day, you're having Zoom calls, you're doing all the things, and they're just getting the time-lapse video. And then you can use that as B-roll. That
Mm,
talks about things that you're doing. I think the first pinned post on my Instagram right now is like who this account is for, like
mm-hmm.
kind of post. And it's me working away in the background with the word wall on top of it. So it's just simple, it's easy. And it also, my favorite part, is eliminates excuses
Yeah,
for
I
not
love
showing
that.
up.
Yeah, I haven't messed with the time lapse thing. I'm always like, I don't know how this works. So
Yeah.
I don't know. You,
Just pop it up for like 10 minutes in real time because it'll like take it to like 18 seconds or something wild.
oh,
Yeah, it's
beautiful. I'll
awesome.
have to try that.
Yeah, it's a
Cool.
good one.
Well, is there any closing thoughts that you want to leave people with? Anything I didn't ask that you want to talk about? Anything you want to say? Anything at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think I will just leave this for those of us, right, who are entrepreneurs that feel like we have to get it all done and all at once, right? I want social media. My goal being, not just an agency owner, but someone that works one-on-one with clients is to make social media less overwhelming and make it the fun part of your business. Because
Hmm.
social media gets to be fun. Like there was a time when it was fun. And when it was fun was when we weren't worried about what everyone else was doing and we were focused
Yeah.
on what our goal was. And I'll leave you with this analogy. I heard it from one of my friends at one of her events. She was on stage and she was talking about this idea of comparison syndrome. And what she was saying is she used her daughter as an example. She was swimming in a swim meet and she was leading in her freestyle swim. And she was ahead by probably 5 strokes. And she was ahead until she popped her head out of the water and looked around to see where everyone else was.
Hmm.
And you know what she did? She lost her race.
She lost her focus.
Yep, she wasn't focused on that end lane touching the wall. If she just stayed in it, stayed there, kept her eyes within her lane, she would have won. Instead, she took a breath, she looked up, she compared herself to where everyone else was, and she lost.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, everyone else is forging ahead.
Right.
So if you hear nothing but this, create a cadence that feels comfortable for you, that you can stay consistent with, and block out other people in your industry who are on their chapter 30 when you're on chapter 3. It's not a
Hmm.
fair comparison, and it will forever steal the fun of social media. It will steal also your inspiration, which obviously is the lifeblood to motivation. I think everyone's like, oh, I'm not motivated. No, no, no. It's not motivation that you're lacking. It's the inspiration you're lacking to
Hmm.
feel that buzz of motivation that happens.
Hmm.
So that is where I will leave
Okay. Yeah.
it.
Like that quote, comparison is the thief of joy.
Yes, very
It is,
real in the social media
it's so,
landscape and
yeah,
anything.
it's so true. And
Yeah,
it applies to everything in life. Well, thank you
absolutely.
so much. It's been so awesome having you on here. And I know this episode's going to be really helpful for people. And everybody, go see Karlyn. Go to osnapsocial.com/resources and grab some of her stuff. And I will leave all of her
Yeah.
links in the show notes too. And we will see you guys back here on the next episode of the Living in Alignment podcast. Bye for now.
Thank you.